and welcome to episode 172 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. Boop. I'm going to be hacking on some Firefoxy stuff today. Hopefully it's going to work out. Hopefully this is a decent stream. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here. How are you? It's April 3rd, 2019. In Canada at least, or in Toronto at least, the sun is shining and stuff's starting to melt. So the long, cold winter of our discontent is starting to disperse, which is nice. Let us talk about software. Okay, yeah, today is episode 172. Reminder, no plan survives breakfast. This is not, for the people who might be watching the stream for the first time, nothing about the stream is really pre-planned beyond the fact that I know I want to work on some things and I'm going to try and work on them. But things might go wrong, I might get stuck. None of the solutions that I end up using or any of the code that I end up writing has been pre-written or anything. I'm going to try and capture software development in the raw. I don't have like notes next to me saying what to do next. I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff. So hopefully that's interesting to you. The second thing is that I want to point out that this agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the video description down below. And if you're watching this on Mozilla, it's in the handout section to my left, your right. And if you're watching this on Twitch, then the only way I think I can give you links is if I paste them in the Twitch chat. So I'll do that right now. Here's the link to the agenda. And here's also a link inside the agenda to a form that will allow you to rate the episode after the episode is done. Don't forget to rate the episode when the episode's done. It lets me know what I can do to make the stream better. It's great to hear from people. Even if you've already rated it before, it's like always good to hear more. Like what things can I do to improve the stream? What things do you want to see more of? What things do you want to see less of? You know, that sort of thing. It helps me shape the stream. So with that having been said, now that you know about the agenda and the forum, let's quickly dive in. So first of all, I also want to mention that there is an episode guide. You're watching episode 172 as this is currently being recorded live. At the time that, if you are watching this live right now, there is no episode guide for this. However, if you're watching a previous recording, if this is after 1 p.m. Eastern time on April 3rd and you are watching a recording of this, it's quite possible that an episode guide has been written for this episode. And if that's a thing that interests you, you should check it out. There are handy links in there for various things, including the agenda and rating the episode link and the sort of topics I cover, links to the the bugs I touch, and addenda as well. Hopefully, like I haven't had too much success in people expanding on the episode guide. Oftentimes, it's more or less a distillation of the agenda, which is fine. But if you're watching this and you want to add your own notes, maybe correct something I made a mistake about, or add additional ideas for something I could have done, or I don't know, maybe expand on something I mentioned in passing, send me a pull request to the repository. The episode guide is hosted in a GitHub repository, and I accept pull requests. So if you're not sure what I mean by that, check out the links here in the agenda on how to send a pull request to the repository, and a contributing guide, and just sort of a general guide for creating pull requests that Smurf D, who is a prolific contributor to the episode guide, used and recommends. Also, Smurf D reports in the live hacking IRC channel that snow has started to melt where Smurf D is. So glad to hear it. Sounds like Smurf D, you're in the northern hemisphere. And for the folks in the southern hemisphere, I guess things are getting colder, maybe. That's, I guess, how the world turns, or the tilt happens. Anyways, let's dig in. What are we working on today? Well, first of all, I want to give a quick update on something we worked on last week, a very mysterious bug. It was this draggable region thing, and we were trying to figure out why whenever I pushed it to try, tests were failing. And there was a bunch of digging in, and I think we tried using Visual Studio, the debugger, and we did a lot of logging, and we dug in to try and figure out what exactly was going wrong, and I more or less have an answer now. Because I don't think I had an answer by the time the episode ended. But I have an answer now. So if the people who are watching that episode are curious, I can give you that answer now. Essentially, what happened was, in certain situations, our test would cause the native drag and drop event loop, which is something that Windows manages and not Firefox. Windows manages that event loop. We'd call into it. If you're not familiar with what that thing is, let me show you. Here's the function call in our code, in the Firefox code. Sorry, it's do drag drop. Yeah, it's right here. So this is a synchronous method. You call it, and then the result that you get back from do drag drop is the result of the operation. And so do drag drop is synchronous. You enter it, but the operating system doesn't like freeze up while you do it, and the programs don't really freeze up. So what's happening? Well, I believe Windows is continuing to run what's called a nested messaging loop or nested event loop, so that Firefox is receiving some messages while you're in this drag drop operation. However, I believe that Firefox does not process what are called gecko events inside that native event loop. And so, at least on Windows, I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. So that means that when you're in a drag and drop operation, it's possible for like the browser to like hold, to not do things. You might notice that behavior. It's actually something that you might want to check out and test if you're on Windows. I'm not sure if this effect is also the case on Mac OS or GTK. Looking at the GTK API for drag and drop very briefly, I'm not entirely certain they do the same kind of modal thing, yeah, a synchronous function call thing here with the nested event loop. Be that as it may. So that's what was happening, is that we were causing a native drag and drop event to occur. And this is because in the test we were looking at, we simulated mouse down and mouse move, and that caused a drag start event to fire, and that event was allowed to bubble up to the point where the parent process heard about it and went, oh, I guess we're starting a drag, and then told the native operating system level, like the widget tree layer, let's do a drag drop operation. And that is when things got hairy and we got stuck in this loop. And there was no way of exiting it, because once you're in this loop and once we are no longer processing gecko events, I cannot programmatically exit it. At least I couldn't find a way of programmatically exiting this loop. Like, you have to have the user either hit escape or somehow otherwise end the drag drop operation. Usually that means like moving the mouse without the mouse button down. And that would do it. So that's what we were running into. And so what the solution is to make it so that it's really hard. Actually, I should be clear, make it impossible for tests in the future to actually enter this native drag drop event loop. And so I wrote a patch to do that. It is, let's cancel. I want you to use Firefox. This Firefox. I don't know why Nightly was selected as like the other Nightly, like the unofficial Nightly was selected as my app, but whatever. So this is the patch that I wrote. It's very straightforward. I'll show you how it works. Essentially, inside the part where we dispatch where we invoke the native sort of drag drop behavior, I check to see if we're in the parent process, and if we are, I assert that we are not running an automation, and if we are, we explode in debug builds. And so that will hopefully make it really hard for people in the future to write tests that cause the native drag drop event loop to be entered. And the solution for actually modifying the tests was to use, well, you have one of two things you can do. You can either capture the drag start event and then stop it from propagating and prevent the default action from occurring. That's one thing you can do. And the other thing you can do is use this utility called synthesize drag start, which does that preventing of default and stopping propagation for you. So that's what I wrote in this comment here, that you should use synthesize drag start or prevent default and start propagating. And so that is waiting to land. It's actually waiting. Oh, it has landed. Or rather, it is on auto land right now. And once that lands, I will be able to land our draggable regions patch, because we'll no longer have our failing test. So, hooray! So, I don't remember who it was. I think it was, who was that person inside the Twitch channel? Starts with an A, but was saying, maybe just modify the test. And I was pushing back a little bit and saying, well, I want to make sure that, you know, it's not a bug in Firefox proper. And it's curious, like, why is it that this bug suddenly surfaced now with the pseudo selector patch? And that's because you don't enter the drag drop loop. If the Gecko prevents you from calling into that drag drop loop if the mouse is outside of the browser window. But my patch had made it so that the mouse was slightly inside of the inside of the window, because I made it so that the corner, which we default the mouse to in automation, which is a draggable region on Windows, is part of the window. Whereas before it was hit testing to part of the caption area. So Firefox considered that outside of the window. But now that it is Ocris, that's right. Thank you, Smurfy. Ocris. Good memory. Wow. If you're watching this, Ocris, you were right. We had to modify the tests. I'm glad I did the needful to investigate and determine what needed to occur. But now that I understand, we can modify the tests to work around the problem and make it, and went the extra mile of making it really, really hard for people to run into the same problem in the future. It's a little bit like, you know, help me help you, help me help you. So if you find that there is a tricky thing that, if you're working on a team and there's some kind of tricky thing that you've had to struggle with, try and make it really hard for other people to struggle with it in the future. Whether or not that's documentation or assertions or tests or something, try and make it really hard to have people fall into the same sinkhole. I mean, if we all did our jobs perfectly, no one would make the same mistake twice. We'd have like some bank of documentation and tests and assertions to make that kind of thing impossible. So that as one person learns, the whole organization of people learns. And that can be true even for yourself, because my memory is terrible, and you know, I might work on code that I wrote 10 months ago and fall into the same mistake I made before. And so one of the ways I get around that is by taking copious notes. I try and take notes, but using assertions, tests, and documentation really, really helps. So that's my update on that patch. That was like a 10 to 13 minute update. So let's talk about other things. What do we want to work on today? Well, I had talked about writing a test in Twitter. Whenever I sort of advertised this stream, I was like, hey, I want to write tests for picture-in-picture. And that's true. Oh, wow. Sorry, I inhaled incorrectly. So what I want to write tests for is this thing that I have a patch for. It's not landed yet. And maybe you remember me working on this a couple of episodes ago. I don't know if I've shown this to you before. But there is a patch that I want to apply, and then I'll show you what we've got. So MaasFab Patch, say that. I'm going to say apply to here. Now what apply to here means is, by default, I think MaasFab Patch, so the job of MaasFab Patch is to go and grab a patch off of Fabricator and apply it to your tree. And by default, what happens is it attempts to find the revision that the patch is based on, check out that revision, and apply the patch on top of that revision. That way you've got the exact same sort of working state as the person who pushed it. And I don't want that, really. I want to apply to where I am right now. And so that's why I went apply to here. So I'm overriding that behavior of checking out a previous version, or checking out the parent revision at the time that the patch was submitted. So I've applied the patch, and now I'm going to build the patch. Now this is a little dicey in that I haven't actually tried this on Mac OS in a little while, so it's possible that this will not work and we'll have some bugs to fix, but hey, that's par for the course for the joy of coding, where anything can go wrong. That's right. That might be a little loud, I don't know. So one of the things I've had to do because of the new streaming setup is that I no longer have sounds piping through what I call Soundflower. No, it's not routing properly into the recording machine, because I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I should probably just have like the sound bank on the recording machine. That might be easier. And then that might be easier actually. And then what I can do is I can listen to it with headphones maybe. I just want to make it so that people in the other meeting rooms in here don't have to listen to my inanity. So first thing I do after I apply the patch is I'm going to toggle some prefs because it's all off by default. So I'm going to turn everything on. And then what I can do is open up a content process that's going to go to, let's go to Big Buck Bunny. Let's go to our Big Buck Bunny. That's a classic test case. Let's check it out. Here's Big Buck Bunny. Okay, so we've got our toggle that appears there. It waits for a couple seconds, and then it disappears. And so that's working. We've got, that's currently, according to the spec, that's how we want picture-in-picture to sort of be advertised to users. And that sort of like fly out, fly back in, it only appears for the first video on the page. Subsequent videos on the page don't show it. But UX is still trying to determine whether or not we want to show that for every first, like with my patch as it is, it's every first time a video is played on a page or shown on a page. But I think there's a little bit of a worry that that's going to exhaust users. It's a lot of motion. It's a lot of like, get out of my face, I want to watch a video. So maybe only showing it 5 times or something ever, and then stop showing it forever. Or the first time a user enters picture-in-picture, we don't ever have to show it again because the lesson that we want to teach the user of this is entering you into picture-in-picture has been learned, so that we never show it again. So UX is still kind of figuring it out. But for now, we show it every time we load the video for the first time. So there it is. And what did I want to do today? I want to write some tests for it. I want to write tests specifically for not the flyout thing that goes away and comes back, but for the toggle, the little toggle, because that part I think is more or less settled. This is how we want it to work. And I do think that there are some interesting problems with how this toggle works and some interesting things that we're going to need to test for. So what are those things? Well, first of all, the way I'm doing this, the way I'm actually displaying this toggle is a little bit tricky because, as you notice, I'm injecting it onto the page itself. It's not actually part of the video controls. It's part of the page. I'm injecting it as what's called anonymous content, and then I'm positioning it absolutely from the top left corner. I position it absolutely to this point on the video. I get the dimensions and the position of the video, and then I calculate the position where I need to place this little blue square. And the reason, why go through all the trouble of that? The reason for that is because there are so many video players that hide videos behind stuff. So a classic example is Vimeo. There was a video about like VR. It was a really cool like Vimeo concept VR augmented reality. What was it? Yeah, hyper reality. This is a really cool video. I'm actually going to link to it in my notes. Test video for pip toggle. So I'm going to say like live test video or manual test video. And I highly recommend you check this video out because it's really, as we enter more and more into a space of like augmented and virtual reality being a thing that is consumer friendly and like consumers going to be wearing them. This is a really interesting sort of perspective on how that might manifest itself into our everyday lives. So worth checking out. I don't actually know. I wonder where it was filmed because like I recognize parts of I think I recognize some of these buildings, but maybe I'm wrong. It all looks pretty CG. Anyways, notice that I've got the little picture-in-picture toggle here. It's working, and if I click it, I'm able to bring up a picture-in-picture video. Now, right now, it's not actually showing anything. It's showing blank, and that's because the video element is actually not showing anything. The video element, what we're seeing here is not the first frame of the video. It's actually an image that Vimeo is placing over top of the video. So see, like every video page seems to do something new and interesting and different, which is pretty frustrating. But as soon as I play this, oh boy, let me mute that. Let me mute that. Sorry for the loudness. But like as soon as I play the video, it plays properly. So that's an interesting problem. And the other thing about it is that Vimeo is placing stuff over top. It places the image over top, and it places all of these custom controls. And so if I made the picture-in-picture toggle part of the default video controls set, we wouldn't actually necessarily get the mouse events for you know, the mouse being over it. And that's because there's stuff stacked over top of it. Or have a toggle button. With Smurfy's like, or have a toggle button if you want to show the toggle after first show. Why do you think Vimeo does it like that? I have no idea. Why does Vimeo have the video just kind of sitting there? Maybe it's because the very first frame of the video, maybe because they don't want to show the first frame of the video, they want to show a significant portion of the video. So this could be a thumbnail or a screen cap from like the middle of the video. And maybe, I think that's pretty typical actually, is instead of, like for example on YouTube, instead of showing the first frame of the video in thumbnails, it's going to show like a significant frame. Like it will find a frame from the video and maybe from the very middle and put it there. And I don't think that's how video elements work by default. They show the first frame. And so that's my hypothesis of why Vimeo is putting this image in front. And also my hypothesis for why the very first frame here is black is because that's actually the color of the very first frame is black. Like if I rewind, hang on, let's rewind here. How do I get those controls? Rewind to the very first frame. Yeah, the very first frame is black. So that's why. We can find another video maybe on Vimeo and confirm that. Oh, the question from Near94 is, will it work for Twitch streaming? The answer is yes, it will. That was the other thing I wanted to make sure this worked for, was Twitch. Specifically, I'm a little bit, what is it, Mike Conley Toronto? Let's see if I can make it work for this stream right now. Content's unavailable. Is this the right, what's my Twitch, MikeConley.ca, that's the site. Sorry, I had the wrong page. Let's see if we can play ourselves inside a picture-in-picture window. First we have this advertisement, so let's skip the advertisement. Well, I can't skip the advertisement, but it's gonna play an advertisement for, it looks like McDonald's, blah-de-blah-de-blah, sponsorship. Okay, so here's me, and that's interesting. I'm actually seeing myself now, and now I'm going to click on the picture-in-picture window. This is a really interesting black hole we're opening here, and now I'm extracted. I've extracted the video into this picture-in-picture window, and also that will work if the video moves into the bottom, like moves around. We'll continue to show the placeholder. Now, what's interesting about this Twitch is, like, look at this glitch. Notice how, like, if I scroll, the toggle is scrolling too. And now, why is that? And that's because this is a scrollable region on the top level document. It's using overflow scroll, I think. And the toggle is placed absolutely at the top level document. That's the only way I can do it. And so when you scroll, the underlying element is scrolling, but the toggle is staying at the same coordinates. The coordinates of the video actually aren't changing. It's just, well, that's not true. The coordinates of the video are changing, but the page itself is not scrolling. Absolutely, the page is not scrolling. And so that's why this is sticking around here, which is that's a glitch. And I'd like to find a way of fixing that. One idea for making that not be so bad is to, if we're scrolling, hide the toggle so that we avoid seeing it sort of stick. So we kind of have that effect right now as a byproduct of how the toggle works. And one of the other byproducts of the toggle and how it works is that if the video is not fully viewable, then we don't show the toggle. So that's another thing that might be a bug. But notice how if the video is also down here, we can bring it out into a picture-in-picture window. That's kind of nice. So yeah, this should work for Twitch. And it should work for most videos, I think. but there are a lot of edge cases that we're going to have our QA folks messing around with. So Near94, to answer your question, will it work for Twitch? We sure hope so. We're trying to make it work for a lot of major video sites, including YouTube, Vimeo, Twitch, Amazon, Facebook, and then there are some ones that I'm less familiar with. But let's go to YouTube for a second here and see if it works on YouTube. Oz trailers, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Whoa, I'm gonna mute that. Now notice that it doesn't show up for this advertisement, which is kind of interesting. So that's a bit of a glitch. It hasn't actually shown up at all. Now I wonder why that is. Why is the toggle not showing up? So that's like an interesting bug. And what I believe I've seen happen is that, like, as soon as the video reaches a certain size, then we show the element, we show the toggle. So there's like some kind of weird threshold that I need to pass in order to like show the toggle. And then if the video is of a certain size, then we don't show the toggle anymore for some reason. It's a bug I still have to work out. Like, it's not showing now, not showing now, not showing now. Now it was showing for a second. This is a gigantic advertisement for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but and then it does work. So we're gonna have to figure that out. I want to wait until the current version of the toggle lands before I start trying to figure all this stuff out. But that is kind of working, but not quite, and we need to sort that out. Like, look, how it's weirdly anchored. Like, yeah, the video changes size. It's all kind of fiddly. And then the anchor stays behind. Like, there are a number of bugs that will need to be sorted for YouTube, I think, but we'll figure it out. What's nice about this is it's hopefully going to be a general solution. It's not going to be, we have to have this special edge case for YouTube, or this special edge case for Vimeo, or this special implementation for Facebook or anything. We can hopefully do this in a general way so that it works for most videos and only have like a single sort of code path for all of this to work. Let's try one more video site. What's a good site that has videos on it? Any recommendations from the Peanut Gallery? Sites with videos on them that we might want to try here. That doesn't require me to log in or have an account. Any recommendations? From live hacking or Twitch chat? Going once. Going twice. Going 3 times. Any recommendations? I'm gonna count down from 5. Trailers.apple.com comes in from SmurfD. That's a great idea. Let's try trailers.apple.com. Let's see how that's gonna work. Let's pull up a trailer for Avengers Endgame. So nothing yet. I'm not seeing it yet, but that's probably because this isn't a video element just yet. Let's maximize the window. Let's hit play. Oh. So we do have an element appearing here. The picture-in-picture element did show up there, and now it's not showing up when I mouse over at all. So that's interesting. I'm not seeing it at all. I'm gonna mute this. So that's an interesting edge case. I don't know where why are we not showing the toggle is the question for me. It's possible it's because not all of the video is intersecting the screen, or intersecting the viewable region, which I think is the, oh, I actually haven't seen this trailer yet. I'm gonna watch this trailer after the stream. Let me just pocket this. Let me put that in my pocket. Boop. I haven't actually seen this trailer yet, so I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, that's an interesting edge case. We saw the toggle, or the flyout version of the toggle, but the toggle itself doesn't actually show. So let's actually get that on file, because that seems like an interesting edge case. Actually, user milestone 3. We might actually have one already for. This might be another test case for that. Okay, so we've got that in the bag, got that tracked. So now that we have this toggle here, I want to write some tests. I want to write some very basic tests so that by the time, oh, daily motion comes in from SmurfD. All right, let's do one more demo. One more demo. Let's see if daily motion's gonna work. What's a good video here? Let's see, let's look for something simple. Domino trailer, never heard of it. Let's pull it up from Entertainment Tonight. But I am going to mute it. So we've got the fly out, that's nice. We don't have the toggle appearing, however. When if I full screen the video, it appears. So that to me tells me that the not all of the video is intersecting the it's not all intersecting. So that's interesting. I mean, one solution might be to take the intersecting rect and just make sure that there's enough space for the toggle and put it on the right side of the intersecting rect. That might be an interesting solution there. So there are things we can do, but that's another good test case. All right, now that we've done that, let us try writing some tests. So how are we going to do that? Well, actually, someone recently wrote a thing. Hang on, was it Firefox Dev? I think Brian Grinstead wrote this really excellent tool that helps me generate test test stuff really quickly. Where is it? Oh, maybe it's in Dev Platform. Dev Platform. Because I want to use this cool new thing that Brian Grinstead wrote to generate the test boilerplate. Brian, yeah, for adding tests. Here we go. There's a script. Okay. Based on my own experience and discussion with others, the workflow for adding new mock tests isn't great. Commonly, it's like do some copy paste. There's a script in Tree I was unaware of until last week called gentemplate.perl that's intended to help you, but leaves a few issues open. Last week, I prototyped a new mock command to fix 1, 2, and 3, which is finding the right manifest file, creating a better boilerplate, and it includes browser Chrome tests. So to add a browser Moki test, we would do it like this: mock add test, and then we give it a path. So let's do that. Let's do mock add test, toolkit components, picture in picture tests. I'm gonna call it browser toggle simple dot .js. What? It's never heard of add test. I might have an out-of-date tree. Oh, he hasn't landed it yet. Man. All right. So I'm gonna have to do it myself. So to add a test, I'm going to. That would have been so nice if that had been ready. Oh well. Picture in picture is up here. We're gonna inside test here. We're gonna create a new file. I'm gonna call it browser toggle simple.js, and now I'm going to I have to add it to the Moki test manifest, or the browser.ini manifest. So browser toggle simple.js. Now one of the things is that like there is a I'm gonna rename this from I was using camel case, and so might as well go back to camel case and make this all consistent. Toggle simple. Okay, so the first thing I like to do whenever I write a test, well, first of all, we add the license block and we say use strict, and then I like to write a comment about what it is that I'm trying to test, what the test is supposed to test. So what I want to do is tests that we show the picture in picture toggle on video elements when hovering them with a mouse. In this particular test case, the entire video is visible and nothing is entire video is visible and there are no transparent overlays on top of it that might absorb mouse events. Okay. Actually, what would be great is if we had like a series of documents with like variations of pages. So here's my thinking. We're gonna have lots of different edge cases here where we've got like the Apple trailer case and the YouTube case and then this case and that case, and hopefully we can boil those down into a reduced test case that we can represent as a video on a page with some, you know, special characteristics. And what would be nice is if this test can take a list of those variations and just run the test one after the other and make sure they all work, as opposed to writing an individual test for each one. So if we can like make it a little bit generic and then make it so that we just have to like feed it variations on the tests, that would be good. So that's how I kind of want to design this. Show the picture toggle on video elements, hovering them with a mouse, with the mouse cursor. So how do I want to do this? I'm going to start by taking some notes. So jotting down some notes. I don't actually have a bug for adding these tests yet, so I'll just put in dummy there. Add tests for the picture in picture toggle button. So how do I want to architect this? Part of the problem is that accessing the picture in picture toggle button to simulate things like clicks or checking its presence is hard because the toggle button isn't actually part of the page. It's in anonymous content. In order to do any kind of manipulation of that anonymous content, I need the anonymous content reference that's handed back when I insert the element, insert the toggle, and I think it'll be difficult to access that from the tests. So here's an idea. 1. Have a testing mode for picture-in-picture for the picture-in-picture toggle. That's controlled by a runtime pref. Maybe we'll call it, what are our current prefs here? Picture-in-picture child. It was like video toggle testing, have a hidden testing mode, so I don't want users to like dig into about config and be like, oh, what happens if I do this? I only want this to be I want it to be something that's not obvious, so that we can flip this bool whenever we're testing, so that we can instrument the toggle differently. I didn't mean to make fun of our users who like to go into about config. Go explore. It's a dangerous place, and sometimes people go into about config and flip things they have no idea what it does, but they're just like, let's flip booleans and turn up numbers. Let's turn this number to maximum. And sometimes they know what they're doing, but from experience reading bug reports and working with users and reading mailing list threads and forum posts, oftentimes they don't. Like, there are these lists of prefs to flip if you're like, I want to make my browser Firefox super secure or something, and like one of the first things that does is disables like updates or something, which is like, I don't know why anyone would use those. That's such a bad idea. It's funny. Don't disable updates on your browser unless you want to get absolutely wrecked. The web's a dangerous place. At the very least, use an ESR build if you want slow down. If you don't want major changes so quickly, use the ESR build if that'll do it for you. But like, don't keep your browser out of date on purpose, unless you're never surfing the web again. If your computer is not connected to the internet and you're never gonna use the browser, or if it's you're only accessing internal intranet, then do whatever. But if you're accessing the outer wildness of the web with an out-of-date browser, that is not a good idea. That is not a good idea. So we have a hidden testing mode. How does this hidden testing mode work? When we create the toggle, fire a Chrome-only event that has the anonymous content as the detail. Thinking. So we get the toggle as the detail. Synthesize the mouse over the video. Wait for the toggle to be created, aka our event to fire. And wait for the toggle to be made visible. Once visible, get the position of the toggle. Compare against an expected position. Okay. Now the expected position is going to be kind of interesting because we're using CSS variables to define the dimensions of the toggle button, and I don't want to have to like statically. That sounds really fragile. If we decide to make the button a little bit bigger, then I have to update the expected values inside of the test, which is not great. I mean, sometimes that makes sense, but in this case, what I think I want to do is see if it's possible to read in the style sheet variables and use those as the expected values in the test to help calculate the expected values. I've seen another test do this, or at least load in style sheets and do something with them. I want to see how that works. So this is the test. It's called Browser Parsable CSS, and what it does is it loads a whole bunch of our CSS files, like the in-browser UI CSS files, and makes sure that they're formatted properly and that they refer to things that it's parsable and that they refer to things that exist and that sort of thing. So a bunch of static analysis. And so how does it work? It goes into the build directory, gets manifest files, CSS manifest, and it creates a hidden frame, it creates an iframe, it loads reporting. It loads an iframe, and then it makes it load a dummy page inside this hidden frame. Okay. And then it takes the Chrome URI of the style sheet and it inserts the style sheet into the document dynamically. Okay. And then after it's once it's loaded, on load. How does it do this? On load. So okay. So you can get the load event on the link element, and then we get the sheet itself, and we process the CSS rules. So we can probably just do that. Was we load like in the test. So one of the things I also want to do is check to see if there's precedent for having add task inside of head. Like I might want to use this for a bunch of tests. The toggle dimensions. So add task for mode. Setup. Yeah, okay, so here's an example. Form autofill does this thing where like before it runs any of its subtests, it does this setup function. And that's what I want to do. So inside of head.js, add task function, pip test setup. Actually, yeah, I think that makes sense. Pip test setup. This runs before the test suite to prepare to generate useful to calculate some expected values for things like toggle dimensions, to calculate some values for things like toggle dimensions. So what we'll do is similar to the Parsable CSS thing, is that we'll use the hidden frame. It's allowed to load and parse any styles. All right. Now is hidden frame dot, how does that work? Hidden frame dot JSM. How does that work? Is it using like a headless create windowless browser? Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So let's see how much of this we can reuse. Create a clean iframe to load all the files. This needs to live at a Chrome UI so that it's allowed to load and parse any styles. Parse Chrome CSS sheets. Hidden frame. This is being imported incorrectly, so I'm going to say let hidden frame equal that. When equals hidden frame get iframe, create an iframe, append child to the iframe, and what does it do? Waits for the iframe to load. To the test file, the dummy page, and then gets the document for that thing, and then we're going to load our style sheet. Now in this case, we don't actually need to load some generic set. We know what the style sheet is that we want to load. So I'm going to say, there are a number of things here that I'm going to change up. I'm going to make this a const test file, test page equals that, const toggle sheet equals, that's actually something that I think we can get from picture child, toggle style sheet, that's this. I could expose that so that the test can just access that one thing, but that seems a bit excessive. So toggle sheet's that. We import our hidden frame. Ooh, test root, test page, const test page. So that's gonna shadow it. That should be okay, but I'll just call this page. Hidden frame. Actually, maybe I should put this up here, just where all the globals are. Okay, so now I'm going to say, create the element, and then I don't expect there to be errors. That would be caught by this test, the Parsable CSS stuff, so we can avoid that case. Instead, let sheet loaded promise equals new promise, resolve. I'm actually going to await this new promise. I don't actually need to refer to it. I just await it. We create, and then we're going to set the attribute path suffix. The path suffix. Always parse CSS. Add suffix to style sheets URI so we always load them here and have them parsed. Okay, sounds like a necessary hack. Const path suffix equals sheet URI, Chrome URI. It's actually going to be toggle sheet plus path suffix. So we await for it to be loaded, and then maybe instead of resolving, what I'll do is make the load event, I'll make it resolve with the sheet itself, link element dot sheet. Okay. Let sheet equal that. And so by this point, we should have the CSS style sheet. And then what do we want to do with it? We want to get the variables out of it. Well, how do you do that? Prop name. check whitelist, list. How? So what do I do with this sheet? What's it used for? What do you do with it? CSS. We resolve. We say process CSS rules, and we pass in the sheet. Sheet has a CSS rules thing that we can iterate over. Okay, and then we can get prop of props. Props is the text of the rule. CSS rules. Oh man, how does this work? MDN CSS rules. CSS rules! Yeah, here we go. CSS style sheet. That's what we're accessing. Insert rule, we can remove a rule. And then we can what are other methods? I can just get CSS rules on it. Again, CSS rule list is an array containing CSS rule objects. A rule object has the text of the rule. So I think I'm gonna have to like do some extract props by searching for all and proceeding by var. Okay. For let rule of sheet.css rules. Is that how it works? And then we go let props equals rule match var. How does that work? Extract props by searching for all preceded by var. Well, that's us referring to like this is what I want. I actually want these values. I don't want the var followed by these things. I want these values. So I need to modify this a little bit. What does Parsable CSS do? Props. So I think what I actually want to do is modify this this regex preceded by var or a non-word character. Okay. And what do we do with that if we get it? I want to get the value. Value and what happens specifically. I want the value of these two things. It's a colon and then the semicolon. I want everything between the colon and the semicolon trimmed. Okay. So const CSS variables equal, I want to maybe map them. How do I want to do this? What's the best way of doing this? Const toggle variables. Padding. And then width. So we're going to go through each rule, and we're going to say you find something, and then any characters, any dashes. What's \W again? Regex \W. Word character, a Unicode letter, ideogram, digit, or underscore. So that counts. That's what we want. Excuse me. We want digits, characters. We don't want dashes. So this is what I want. White space. Then group. Okay. How's the matching work? What's the matching syntax again? That prop of props. I guess we get the return value. It's like an array of things that matched. If not props dot length continue. Actually, for let prop of props maybe this should be properties. Property of properties. Const CSS to toggle variable map. Padding. This might be easier. Width. Okay, so use this variable map. If property how do I want to do this? If property well, what's I need to like man. have to remember how to regex again. Dump rule sheet.css rules, or no, just rule. And now I'm going to say add task. Okay, true, did a thing. Okay, now let's make sure that this runs. Test the toolkit, components, picture, tests, browser, toggle, simple. Ooh, there's some chatter in the IRC channel. One thing is for sure, there's a lot of different ways to fake a website via tests. Yep. Okay, so what happened when I tried to do things? Did I not actually run head? Await is only head.js import through an exception. Head.js on 89. Oh, right. So async. Right, and the actual test should also do the same thing. What happened? What happened? Entering. Hello? Did it? Are we stuck here? We're probably stuck in here. Let's see. Waiting for hidden window, hidden frame. Wait. No, I quit Sublime. Had the wrong thing focused. Waiting for iframe load. Waiting for style sheet load. Style sheet loaded. All right, let's see where it hangs. Or doesn't hang, but waits. Waiting for the iframe to load, apparently. And why is that? Frame loaded. When document on the pen child iframe. Why would that need to wait? Why is that not working? Maybe this test page is no good. Content window dot location. Maybe we should say like iframe dot source equals page. Although I don't know why that would make a difference. Frame loaded. Now, what if we point it somewhere else instead of page? How about example.com, which is like the sort of default. We have a proxy running in our test framework that captures domain requests to example.com and redirects it to an internal server, and which should be working, and that works. So our page is assignment to undeclared variable link L. Right. Okay. So that's the problem, is that the source I was using, page, is no good. G test path. Oh, I don't have a dummy page. Huh. I might need one. Or I could just use example.com. I could just use example.com. Or the test page. All right. Waiting for style sheet load. It never does it. Content window, document. Create the element. Do I ever? I don't ever append it to the document. I don't think. When does that happen in here? Link L. Append child right there. I never did it. Okay, I can probably get rid of these now. Might be better to load a different page, like maybe about blank. That might be better. Will that work? Actually, I think I have to kind of like load a Chrome document, don't I? I think that's what they did over here. Is they loaded dummy page.html. So what I'll do is directory. I'll just point it at the root. Can I do that? Let's see what happens. Just want those rules. Oh, the challenges of getting information out of a file I have total control over. So it exited. Toggle simple, waiting for style sheet loaded, did a thing, leaving test bound. So style sheet loaded. Let's add a debugger statement there. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's enough that I have to load an HTML document, but let's load a debugger statement. Or let's load the debugger and use a debugger statement. Hit our debugger statement. So, what is the value of sheet? Style sheet. Good. That's what I wanted. Sheet.css rules. Nothing. Sheet. Can I get like title? Sheet.text. 2 string? Man. Disabled is false. There are like no rules in it apparently. Yeah, there's like nothing there. Oh, there it is. Hello. Parsing mode, author. Does it do anything special? Throttle map promises. What is that? Lots of gunk in here. For some reason, couldn't load the style sheet. Why not? Is it because not the right kind of document? Let me do that again, actually. Let's pull up the JS debugger, and I want to look. Smurfy's like, can't you just ignore the regex stuff, regular expression stuff, and grab the whole string from the file to eliminate regular expression issues? I'm not even at the regular expression yet. I'm just trying to get the style sheet loaded. I'd like it if I can avoid the regular expression issues, but I haven't even gotten the style sheet like loaded properly, which is very frustrating. So I want to know where we're pointed at. iframe.source, where is that? Okay. Ah, there's nothing there. Toolkit components, picture tests. Browser. It's because it's not a valid page. Okay, so get root directory. Let's see where that's used. directory, and then I've got a test page file here. Tab load event, load get root directory gtestpath plus this file. Support files. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, test page is in the support files. Very simple page. Be the way I'm actually loading it, can it? How? Because it loaded the document a little differently and went like content window location, which I doubt it, but mission equals, let's do it this way. I'd love to end this video with us having dumped out the tests and maybe even extracting those variables. So maybe what we can do, await browser test utils, open new foreground tab. Browser. Let's see what happens if we load here. And then await promise resolve, set timeout 10 seconds. Yeah, I'd love to be at the point where I'm dealing with regular expressions, actually. Because that would mean I'd have the variables extracted from the style sheet. Okay, so now instead of loading it in a... Oh, what? Oh, 98. What happened? Whoops. Too many parentheses. Too many parentheses. Okay, so it's actually loaded the page. That's nice. Now, is it because HTML iframe can't load? Do I have to prepare the iframe specially? Iframe. Okay, so instead of reaching into this, let's do something slightly different. Let's make it so that browser equals tab.link browser. Let's make it so that the document is in fact browser content document. Pow. Can I Chrome browser content browser.js? Browser selected. Browser content document. Yes, I can get the document. Okay. Content document. So now instead of doing it inside this hidden window that I can't see, I'm going to try doing it inside of this tab that I've started to open now that I know that it's loading properly. Style sheet was apparently loaded. Link. Putting my debugger back. Okay, so here we are, our debugger, sheet.css rules. Now maybe there's nothing there. We have a rule list, length of 0. Nothing. There's nothing there. The sheet itself doesn't have media, CSS rules. What if, let's do something slightly different. Sheet equal await new promise. We're going to create a new sheet, but instead we're not going to add the suffix. Sheet.css rules. Nothing. Now what if I inspect this document? Man, the test is shut down. Man, all right. Let's do it again. Don't want to leave this episode at a cliffhanger, but I'm at time. So let's just do one last ditch effort here and see what's happening. I insert the CSS sheet. Okay. Oh, well, stop unloading it then. Why would you be unloading? Stop unloading. Style sheet, debugger, and then what I'm going to do is await new promise. I'm going to just await forever. New promise resolve, set timeout. Wait for 150,000 seconds. Hopefully that'll give me enough time. All right. Let us examine this thing. Actually, instead of using the inspector, let us use iframe browser.document content document dot head. Okay, so we can do this. Child nodes. We got picture-in-picture here, this one here, and then we can look at the so we've got the link node here. Sheet. And then we have the empty set of rules. Now, why is that? The sheet's in there. This URI should be valid. Like G browser load one tab, add tab, browser test utils, open new foreground tab, G browser, open it here. Right. This is valid. This is valid. Is there something preventing me from loading that CSS sheet on this page? Like, CSS. The CSS errors here. Oh, unknown pseudo class. So I can see it attempting to load. Yeah, toggle.css. Style sheets within CSS. Style sheets without CSS. So I'm related. Cross check for errors. Refresh the page. You'll see errors from style sheet. But maybe that was. Sheet. CSS rules. Nothing. Can't imagine. Does it need some CSS specific header to recognize it as CSS? I don't think so. Like whenever I set up the link, I said it's of text CSS. It's a style sheet. Huh. And if I load this document, just so we're clear, that also, like with the, yeah, with the cache busting there, that's okay. Why can't you see it? Well, I don't think we're going to solve this mystery today. It's 2:35. I'm going to call it there. Hey, thanks so much for watching The Joy of Coding. I'm sorry we didn't get to solve our mystery. So I'll tell you what my next plan is. Instead of trying to I'm going to make it so that the test page puts the Chrome CSS sheet directly into the markup of the test page and then try and access it with the inspector to see if it loads correctly there. And then I'm going to probably talk to the person who wrote browser Parsable CSS to figure out what I'm missing. All right, so that was episode 172 of The Joy of Coding. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was enjoyable. I will see you next week. All the best to you. Take care. Bye-bye. Hold on. Outro music. Here it comes. Tablet fell asleep. See ya.